they all piggyback on the same things. You know, so that gives them their primary revenue stream is with.
Okay. Cool. And I'll search for what I'm looking for. I'll, we do that. Well, you. Call it
Yeah,
to order. et
Yeah,
cetera.
we'll call the meeting to order. You have a quorum, have, Maureen.
I'll read through the, if you want me to.
Yes,
So, Chairman Di Lorenzo asked to be excused. Tom Heisler.
Present.
Guy Hoffman,
present.
acting chair. Carl Lewis,
Present.
Karen Pagliaro asked to be excused. Mary Catherine LaRose. Mary Catherine, can you hear us? We see Mary Catherine's on the screen, however. Not getting a response. And Rob Ramsey. I don't believe I heard from him, did you?
No.
Mary Catherine, can you hear us? Yeah, that works. Not muted. She might have stepped away for a moment. Think we need her for a quorum.
Yeah, we do.
Jim Mahoney?
Yeah.
No, he didn't intend to join unless I
Okay, I would.
asked him to. I could text him if we need him, but we don't think we need him for anything.
Okay.
Catherine hears us according to the text.
Oh, thank you. I was looking something up and wasn't. So I guess she's hearing us.
Grab those.
They're right there. They're gonna be right behind you. Okay, so she hears us.
All right. So,
We can't hear you, Mary Catherine, if you try to speak. You may, I'll leave up the chat for you. However, we try not to use the chat. We'd rather voice, so.
yeah, just to
For the-
remind everybody that, Marlo's not here tonight, so she's gonna be depending on, on the video and audio to, work on the minutes, so we can identify ourselves. You know, when, we're speaking, that'll help her out an awful lot too, I think, so.
Alright.
Guy Hoffman, so vice chair, chair for tonight. Now, you're here for,
Steve Wood, Parks and Grounds, Community Garden, and to speak on the Scout camp.
okay.
You
I
can
guess we could take care of it. It'll just take a minute for the,
minutes?
approve the minutes
Sure.
and then just go on instead of moving it up. So, I know everybody is, read the minutes and I'll, entertain a motion. Either for, edits or approval.
I move that we accept the minutes.
We have a second.
Second,
That was by Carl Lewis.
Yeah, yes. Not hearing any other comments, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
aye,
Good, and,
If I remember correctly, Mary Catherine was not, I don't have the minutes in front of me, was not at there, so. She was, oh, yep,
Yeah.
she just said it. She was
Yeah.
not at the last
Yeah.
meeting, so
Okay.
approved by those present.
and,
As far as,
we have Vincent on, is he?
I believe he's with the scouts as well.
Oh, okay, very good.
I was just, if you don't mind, well,
Yep.
so we don't have to change the order, but we don't have any update on the grant applications. We have,
Okay.
the invasive species grant, the trails grant, and no updates.
Well, that
They've
was
been
easy.
submitted. So,
All right. We'll move on to, use of town lands and the Hatchery Brook Community Garden. Repairs to the garden shed.
Yeah, so, we opened up the garden on April 1st. We hooked up the solar pump today, all of that is running. Carol asked us last year if we could do a refurbish of the shed. If you can look at the pictures, front and the back, you can see that it's in really bad shape. And the back's even worse. Everything is rotted completely around it. And what's causing it, we believe, is the mice that are getting in and out and crawling over there, defecating, urinating and everything, and it's starting to eat all the wood.
did you send those to me? Do I have them? No,
No, probably.
okay. No,
I
Can't
can send
share,
it to you.
that's all right.
So, our game plan was we went in there this week, we ripped everything out. We're all about 95% done with it. We're just looking to see if possibly you guys, if they wanted to utilize the funds from the garden to repair.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back either right to the beginning or. Age of the shed.
I think it's 20-something years old, if I remember correctly.
It
Do you have-
could be.
An estimated cost?
Anywhere between 1,000 and 1,100. By talking to facilities, they were okay with us doing the repairs, and as soon as we're done with it, they're gonna go in there and paint it. I don't know if you guys have a preference or a color. I'm thinking more probably something along the lines of like a dark green, might hide it a little bit better. But it looks like a brand new shed almost right now.
so the cost of that is, from the revolving, community garden fund, or?
Exactly. It's inside of Len's copy of all other funds. It's pretty much like a 500 account that just keeps rolling. I checked it from February and there was like $5,200 in it. And I think that was prior to everybody anteing up for the 2024 garden season.
Yes.
So it seemed like there was plenty of funds in it.
Yeah, I don't think those funds have been deposited yet, but they're on the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they haven't.
And, it's Carl again. Steve, is there any reason that you would see not to do what, you propose doing? Is there any downside to it?
If we don't do it, the shed's gonna become dilapidated and be honest.
Yeah.
The new shed is gonna be it's gonna be very expensive compared to, the $1,100, or we probably have like $1,052 into it right now. So
Oh.
it'll get us the next 20 years till I retire.
All right, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, that for a new shed and stuff, that's. You're not gonna do any better for a price or, like you said, you have to replace it or anything.
And I'll try to
that's
work
what
with, I'll try to work with Carol to see if we can get a committee down there, clean it out, sweep it out, maybe add some different types of mouse repellent or something, to spray around it. We're gonna try to make it critter proof, where like the first foot around it will be processed, so nothing can burrow underneath it.
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. And to me, that's, besides things like, the fence and everything, I mean, that's what the fund is really there for.
I think the only thing we've done, should we put the pitchfork in it as well?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the solar pump, the pitchfork and the fence is probably the only thing we've done in the last 10 years that I can remember.
Substantial, yeah,
Couple water spigots here and there.
barrel or two.
There, yeah.
But we don't use the barrels anymore because we have the solar pump, which worked again.
Yes.
So I'd entertain a motion that, would be, agree that, the money for repairing the shed should come out of the dedicated community garden fund. At an estimated, $1,000 to $1,100.
Yeah, that's fine.
So moved. This is Carl Lewis. So moved. What Guy said.
Second,
All right, any other discussion? And then all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye, Carl, aye.
I'll send you guys a picture once the shed is complete.
And I don't think, for our end of this, that we'll leave it up to you and Carol and stuff for deciding the color.
I'll touch base.
I mean, I.
Come to our department, please. Planning and zoning commission may very well make a comment if I don't have it, if I'm not overseeing it, so.
Really? Okay. Including the color?
Include, well, we're not supposed to regulate color, but you don't want something that's going to stand out.
Right, and,
As-
and the
as
understanding
you
is that
said,
we don't want it
blend,
to stand
yeah.
out, so.
Thank you for that,
Yeah.
yeah.
run out of fellowship, right?
We've run out of Battleship Gray. We've had that for a long time.
The neutral natural color is what I would suggest.
You want to go back to the brown?
I'm just saying a neutral natural, that could be green, it could be.
Yeah.
Sky blue, I don't know what that color is, it would depend,
But
but,
it's not red or.
but it's not,
purple.
yeah, not flowers necessarily, colors, I think. Maybe,
No art.
maybe if
Okay.
that's what they'd like, then, that could be entertained. If that's what the gardeners are looking for, but it is a conservation area, so I think we wanna kind of maintain that natural.
Yeah.
Environment.
Very good, and then the next, is the scout camping, right? Or is it- What else
So-
do you have? I'm sorry. Steve.
Do you wanna go? You
Yeah,
want me to
well,
go? I'll
yeah.
go.
You want to go?
Right, yeah.
Or you go?
So, we had an inquiry from the scouts to camp at Hatchery Brook. My understanding, at the time the inquiry came in initially for me from Parks and Rec was that without, finding anything written, that the Parks and Rec was the department that oversees the use of the facility because they have the paperwork for people to use town facilities. So they've always administered use of the campground. We found a draft and I think it was handed out or they're piled up over there. A draft of campsite rules from 2015. But with the help of the town clerk, we researched minutes and some other sources and didn't find that these rules, although they do seem to be the rules that are being applied, or at least in general, that they weren't ever adopted officially that we could find. Of course, I've only worked with the commission for a few years, relatively speaking, and less than half of the since 2015. So looking for guidance from the commission. The inquiry for camping, this last month included some use and access that isn't on the list and that no one remembered the commission previously allowing, which included driving into the campsite as well as moving a porta potty to the site. If you look at the campsite list we have here, actually, let me try to pull it up if you give me 1/2 of a second. So those online can see it and everybody in the room can see it. Sec. Sure. I'm sharing it on the screen
Oh,
anyhow, so that was my intent. I just have to get to the point where it can be seen. And I don't know if it's big enough for you guys. Online, tell us if you need anything else with regard to it. Of course, you can't read the whole thing at once. Because of the size of the screen, but we'll do our best. So that created, so those two questions of driving in and moving the porta potty were triggers for there to be some concern, and then the discussion also ensued as to whether or not the Conservation Commission actually grants approval before each use and whether that's necessary. I thought it had been determined when I first started helping with this commission that you know, with Park and Rec doing it, it wasn't necessary because they have policies as long as the same rules were followed. But again, we found this draft rules and not adopted rules. Nothing that said they were adopted. So need feedback from the commission. We have the scouts here with us to also provide some feedback and let us know whether some of the, you know, anything is applicable. And of course, Steve, who is out there and knows what's going on the ground. You know, I think there were several lengthy conversations with regard to the campfires and securing the fire pit and having the scout that refurbished the area and put down new pavers and made it safe and secure and et cetera. But again, this is for the camping use.
And I think
And
some
I
of the
go
confusion
to
might have
Steve.
come from this is, I haven't been in this position all that long, probably 7 years total. And I can say that for many years, definitely definitely since 2015, there is a plethora of these rules that have been broken, of porta potties brought out there and stuff going on, of people being drove down there. And I imagine that's where your original request came in from, is that kind of was past practice. If I would go back to 2015, 2017, where they would move stuff down there, there would be larger fires. There was a lot of things that took place, and that's where my question came in. And I guess my stance was, who was I to tell John, no? I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot has changed throughout the years when it comes to Boy Scouts and things that are going on, and I didn't feel comfortable making a decision saying no, not knowing all the parameters of why these requests might be needed. There could have been a kid with mobility issues. There could have been a reason that a porta potty might have been needed. And without knowing all the facts and not digging into anything, I just did not feel comfortable being the no. Yes, I oversee it, I take care of it, but being involved in politics for 22 years with the town of Berlin, it's better to have all the ducks in a row rather than make a rash decision.
As far as I can remember, we probably, I don't know if we've really addressed this over the last, I don't know if it goes back to 15 or not, but you know, from time to time, we did have, when scouts were gonna come in, it would come before us, and some, like you said, some of the other things, I remember us commenting and having some input on the fire pit, things like that. But we really, my recollection is, you know, we've really limited the official use of this to the scouts. Based to a large degree on how the building was fixed up and, you know, that process, and then being involved from the beginnings of that. If it's been used on some kind of regular basis since then, it hasn't come before us as a regular kind of item.
I agree.
We didn't find, so I had one of the town clerks
Yeah.
do a search for me
Yeah.
and they did not find any reference to anyone camping coming before the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission since she started
Yeah.
in 2015.
15.
We searched the word camp
Yeah.
in order to
And that's not,
try to be broad enough without her going crazy. I didn't have her read every set of minutes, you know, it was a
I-
cursory search, but it was a search. The best,
I think
in
the
a
fire,
limited
the
time.
fire pit was probably since then.
yeah, the fire pit,
Was-
we
yeah.
found the stuff on the fire
Okay,
pit, and that
yeah.
was since I started.
Yeah.
I think it was
With the
3 years
commission,
ago now.
so
Yeah, yeah.
about 3 or
Yeah,
4,
and then
think it was-
just some.
and
occasions,
repairs.
Right,
the-
and then some.
scout
occasions of
projects.
Other people,
The
so
sign, yeah, 'cause we had the signs up there because the guy was having the campfire.
they were,
Yep.
other people were coming in
Yep.
and we did, right. we Talked about, and came up with wording for what should be posted there and things like
And we had
that,
a-
so.
Yeah, the top fabricated, there's locks on it, so they have to go to the park and rec to get the lock, to unlock it. Use the fire pit.
Yeah.
That I remember all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, so then the issue is, for these things, it's been a long time since anybody has officially requested use of it, to our knowledge anyway. I have no way of knowing, you know, I remember that, some discussions way back of not wanting, you know, cars back there, and I don't ever remember us talking about, you know, wanting porta potties moved back there for a weekend and,
Right.
Now, these
so
all,
if it's been done other times, it's been outside of our realm.
Yes,
so,
may I, because I have a little bit of history on this,
Okay, yeah.
if I may. This is Carl. So I recall this was the restoration of that building was a Boy Scout project, and I believe another project was a re-restoration of that and the fire pit. We talked about congregate camping there, but the only thing we've had there, in my experience over the last 5 years, is an adjacent landowner calling the fire department
Right.
when non-Boy Scout groups have gone in there and made fires. And partially that was perhaps our fault because we allowed somebody to cut wood in there. So it was almost like saying, come on in and have a fire. I don't know what the role of the Conservation Commission is, but I will say that knowing leave no trace principles and the where that place is, I'm not sure that I would love to have anybody drive in there because that's an open space parcel and it's not very accessible. And I don't know that I've ever seen a porta potty there. Maybe if a Boy Scout wants to come in and dig a pit privy or something like that, I don't know what that would mean in terms of the Hatchery Brook and how close it was, but it's not really that great a parcel for that. eh, I don't know if we want to have any cognizance of like permitting that. I really don't think we're like set out for that, but it's just not that great a spot for anything but a few people to throw up a tent and then get out of there the next morning. It's not like a great like congregate camping spot. Just not. I mean, if we wanted to do that, we might as well do it in the middle of the Girl Scout camp where there's old pit privies and old buildings anyway. I'm about done with that.
Um,
I was just gonna say, so this list, you'll notice, does say at the top of it, Town of Berlin Park and Recreation Department.
right,
I was not able in the limited amount of time to determine maybe they are the ones that came up with this list, as they are the ones that administer it, or maybe it was a combination of I'm thinking, based on looking at the rules, was probably a combination of the two together, you know,
Mhm.
with staff at the time or whoever that brainstormed a list together. Some of the rules clearly do align, to the best of my knowledge, with some of the Park and Rec Department guidelines for use of facilities anyway.
I may chime in
Yeah.
for a moment, when you have a, I don't want to interrupt you, but.
Just identify yourself when you start
Sure.
speaking, that will help us.
Excuse myself, go to the 7 o'clock.
Yeah, do you have anything else to say on this
I don't.
before you run
Pretty much.
away?
I'm good with whatever you guys decide. Park and Rec is good with everything going through them. We just need a final kind of, as of the Parks and Grounds, we would like a final decision of what the rules are, so we know how to diminish them going forward. So if Jonathan Huff or Dorito, or Mr. Dorito calls, at least we know, hey, here's the policy, it's clear as day, we can pull it up and speak. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send a picture of the shed when it's complete to everybody. Prior to being paid neutral.
Thank you.
See you guys. Take care. Jonathan Huck, I'm with Troop 441. Thanks for having us and thanks for including this in part of your meeting notes. As you know, Boy Scouts are leave no trace. You know, they don't want to encroach on any property that is not supposed to be touched or anything like that, but so we were inquiring about doing this, but our initial intent was just to go out there and camp. And then some of the other leaders asked me to put it forth in front of the town and say, would this be okay? So that's where that piece of it came in, to drive the trailer and park it there, because the equipment stuff is in there, and some other things that we use for camping. But we don't really need all that. We could park it in the gravel lot by the garden center. The portalet was just a thought of, let's present it and see what happens, and it's not a necessity, obviously, but it was just an idea that the other leaders brought forward to me to bring to you. And so that's where that all came apart. I did bring, if you want to look at it, all the scouts abide by all these rules, but this is our leave no trace, respect wildlife, not to take anything from the property, plan ahead, about tent placement. I mean, it goes on and on. So if you want to look at a copy of that, I'll produce a look.
Yeah, I would love one for the
To let you
record.
know that, you know, these kids live and breathe by conservation and preserving it, and you know, that's the last thing you want to do is harm any of the area, especially being right in our town and a conservation area. What else did I have? I think that's it for now. And the only question I had was on this, the draft list was number 13. Severe weather. What is that? Heavy rain, light rain,
Yeah.
something happens there and we can or able to camp out, are we allowed to actually like sit in there and have meals and picnic tables in there? There's no door to be locked. I noticed it says there's no windows either in that building. It says building is to be locked and not use upon group's departure, so.
So can I comment on that?
Sure. So,
Guy, do you mind if I
Yeah.
comment on that?
No, go ahead, Carl.
So I don't have, these are not our rules, and nothing I said, by the way, earlier was meant to suggest that the Boy Scouts couldn't camp there or it wouldn't be a good idea. I think that we acquired that parcel, and that was a thought that we would allow congregate camping there. I never thought that the building wouldn't be used for as our guest said, and I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name, but
Donna.
yeah, I'm sitting here in my cellar. So I think that from my perspective, that building was meant to be used by Boy Scouts. It was meant to be used for congregate camping, and that Boy Scouts who were there to practice leave no trace principles, such as throwing up tents and making small fires that could be extinguished easily and never seen again, is fine with me. Unfortunately, what we've had situations where there were adjoining landowners who have called the fire department every time somebody's been out there. So I'm not against camping. I'm not against folks using that. I think Boy Scouts need to learn these things. I was a Boy Scout myself. It almost cured me of wanting to camp, but I still do. Um, so nothing in these rules, I think, reflects what the Conservation Commission said. Uh, but we have to be cognizant of the reality that there are landowners who have line of sight access to that, and so we have to be very, very careful. And it's not designed. If we do have a porta potty in the parking lot, I think that's possibly what needs to be used, and that's not very convenient. That's probably, you know, 150, 200 yards away, but I don't think you're going to bring in a bathroom there. So so I think it's a great place to camp, except for those things, you know. So that's my comments on that, guys.
Yeah. Um. Guy Hoffman again. Yeah, I'm surprised to see about the number 13 and how that's worded, because I expected, that the building is why it's
I'm,
located there,
this is Maureen. I have a question. I'm thinking, did one of the Boy Scout projects include doing some fixing up to that building?
Yes.
Could it be possible that in 2015, the building maybe shouldn't have been used and needed to be fixed before then? Before it was used or something? Do you think
I
that's?
believe that it was fixed before then,
That
Oh,
would
okay.
be my guess too, yeah, that it was done.
but
properly.
again, I think they're probably afraid of people burning in that building or using it for, I can only imagine that's why. Again, we never saw Guy Hoffman. Did we see these rules at all?
I don't remember seeing these. Some of these match up with some things that we would have said. Where I'm kind of thinking with this is because it is just a draft, but it is through Parks and Rec. Things have come through us. I think it's up to the two commissions to finalize. I think it's Park and Rec's job to probably have these rules set. But because it's in an open space parcel, I think we need to be able to review them and comment on them before they finalize them. And I think they need to finalize so that, groups come in, don't have to go like, so what are the rules? I think they started with this, and I don't know what happened with it since then. I think my personal feeling is that probably the two things that you're asking about for clarification, are things that if I'm reading a draft on this, I'm gonna agree that either of those things, vehicle or the porta potty should be brought up there. Thank you. So, but I think we need to coordinate with Parks and Rec. And it's not a difficult thing to do, to get these settled and to make sure that from our perspective, as this being on the open space parcel, that we're comfortable with what those rules are. What the different conditions are.
One more question. but
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Jonathan Huxon. I know we're talking about this piece of property, but I know the Boy Scouts want to be more active as far as land conservation. I saw some birdhouses down in the area. We're willing to help put those back up. I know there's one in the field right there that's laying down.
Yeah.
So any projects you have like that, just make sure you bring them to our attention through 441. And the second thing was the other pieces of property connected to that. Now, the Girl Scout, former Girl Scout camp, is that part of this same set of rules, or is there another set of rules for this? So you want to have a day picnic or even camp there? Is there another set of rules or draft that needs to be gone through, or is this the same? And the last thing was, is this?
Yeah, I don't think there's no provisions for camping at the old Girl Scout camp. My comments were, I think that'd be a better place to actually do some camping. And that was sort of an internal a commission
Yeah.
thing, because there's less line of sight. You know, people were camping there in the 1960s, right? And so there's no real line of sight. So if you wanted to have a fire, that's where I would have, uh,
Yeah,
because nobody's looking.
actually, it's a good point. I mean, and you actually have a road going down in,
I've never been there.
Blacktop right from the.
yeah, yeah. I don't know of any existing, approval or anything, that anything has ever been approved for camping and stuff there.
We're just curious. It's
Yeah,
like
no, but
Pistol
it's a good-
Creek is
I
Another
mean,
great asset, but. Could get picnic there, is there camping allowed there? We're exploring.
Right,
These beautiful pieces of property in town and want the kids to be able to.
right.
Do this.
There's no provision for
Fine.
camping there. The only provision for camping that I'm aware of in our town is at the Hatchery Brook Place. And there's also, by the way, a small um campsite on the Mattabesset Trail up on Lamentation Mountain. It's a camp that doesn't have any services, but it's on the New England National Scenic Trail. And I believe it's in the town of Berlin. It may be in Meriden, but it's nobody knows about it, but it is an approved campsite. So you should know about that too, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
that.
think if I understood the trail, this is Maureen speaking, if I understood the email conversations and some of what went back and forth, the Park and Rec may allow camping at Timberland as well. Do they allow that, or did they just
They have
put
in
that
the
out
past.
as a possibility? So,
Sorry, Jonathan, the Cub Scouts, I did that for the last 6 years with Griswold Pack, and it was always day activity, so the whole day cooking or something there. The Parks and Rec always approved that, and I know Troop 441 and some of the other troops actually did overnights in Timberland.
yeah,
So it
I
has
got
been
the
done in the
impression from
past.
Park and Rec Department, that said, you know, from these rules. And there's a new director, you know, neither director of this department or of, Park and Rec are the same from 2015, so we just are kind of figuring out what got left behind.
Timberland's
And,
not the best
and,
Saturday. People walking in there.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Walking out of the tents, I mean, it's right in the public.
Yeah.
Space.
I just wanted to point it out as it was discussed as to other places in town,
Yeah.
so.
And if I could, I just wanted to add one additional point. First of all, thank you very much for giving us the chance to appear in front of you today. My name is Vincent Pace, and I have a 6th grader in 441 along with Jonathan. So we've been in that troop for about a year. And we appreciate the chance just to have a dialogue with you. I think that the spirit and the intent was just to see, are there other venues within the town of Berlin we can use for campouts? We've been to Camp Mattatuck, we've been to Camp Yagu. That doesn't work for all of our members. Some want to do something more local. And so we appreciate the chance to ask you questions and get direction from you if this is a viable location. I think first and foremost, we want to make sure we follow the rules. We need to make sure the scouts understand what the rules are and follow those. And we would like to get permission to be able to use areas that we ask for. So any guidance you can provide is greatly appreciated. And we're happy to take any questions you may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the question about the other properties that Carl brought up about Girl Scout property is an interesting one, and maybe we need to pursue that with Parks and Rec also, you know, as far as some possibility. There's a good number of the hiking trails through there. I think there are some locations that were previously campsites that are that little bit further away from the main trail, where you wouldn't have people walking right through centers and stuff. But I think that holds possibility in play. And at this point, you know, the only groups that I know of that we really are approved that have been approved in the past than the scouting, so. So,
Help me out, from, let's see, that gravel area, at the garden. Is there something of an access road, gravel road to the campsite? You're just going across.
You could see where the divots are from where the hang equipment goes back, and then
Yeah.
there's a little hill, and then it goes back.
yeah, there's a little trail and it's a little, yeah.
But no attempt at a gravel road or anything else like that.
If there was, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
If they put anything down years ago, it's not really, I don't remember that it's really there.
If I may.
Yeah.
I don't believe there is, not that I'm terribly familiar with
I don't-
going through the area, but I also, those fields are nesting grounds, so they have a limited
Right.
amount, you know, times where they're mowed and
Right, they
and cut
don't get mowed
anyhow.
until later in the
which-
season.
I would think would be another reason not to permit
Yeah.
vehicular traffic, because monitoring that is just one more layer of
Yeah, and-
monitoring activity
So,
that,
so,
Clear and
so
you
are,
mentioned
are we
that-
talking about the sheer property there, the original building that we were just talking about? I didn't quite
Yes.
hear,
Yeah,
yeah, so there's no vehicular traffic. That's and it's very wet. So I would not say that would at all be acceptable. You would have to backpack in there, backpack the half mile in there. And that's another reason that militates against having any sort of like bathroom brought in there. It's just not practicable.
can I just point out also that Mary Catherine did ask a couple of things in the chat,
sure.
because we're
Yeah,
not
oh, yeah,
hearing
sure.
her, so,
Yep.
she did get her question answered with regards to, if there's a building at the campground. Yes, I think that all happened several minutes ago, and I'm sorry, Mary Catherine, I didn't check the chat. She remembers the complaints from the unauthorized fires, as did Commissioner Lewis. She's wondering if the suggestion to notify the nearby landowners if the scouts are going to be camping. First step should be to finalize regs for camping. Second, approve what areas are acceptable for camping, and applications from civic groups. So I think that, and she does not know why she doesn't have audio. So that's all right. We're trying our best.
Yeah, I'm just,
So I would suggest, if this commission is up for this today, or if you'd rather, take the list and, look at it for, the draft, and look at it, or if you'd like to go through the items one by one, just to see whether, there's a consensus that they apply, at Hatchery Brook, and then I can alert the Park and Rec Department or Park and Rec Director of the same, and she could, go to Parks and Rec with it as well, is what I'm thinking. Again,
I don't want to go through these line by line. I'd like to make a motion that we support that scouts camping at that location, in theory, at this point, without fire and without a bathroom. I don't think that, leave no trace principles don't really talk about having a fire. Well, I guess a fire in an established fire pit, right? So I don't
Right.
want to stop the scouts from camping there 2 weeks from now. But I also, I've never seen these rules before, and I don't want to go through them right now. I'd rather table the issue, move that the scouts can camp there if they don't have a fire and they walk to the porta potty to go to the bathroom. Let them camp there 2 weeks from now or whenever. I mean, I'm all about the scouts camping, but I'm
Right.
not about going through a list that was not generated by this commission at all.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not, really in favor of that either. I will differ with you about the fire, I think, at this point, because we have, since 2015, we have gone through that process with the approved fire pit, which I believe has the lock on it. With a grate going over, it. So that is how I remember that, so that other people just don't have access to that. And if we've gone through that process to make it as a location for a fire. That I know that we have problems with the neighbors, but the neighbors could be notified by Parks and Rec or whatever with it. And
That is true, Guy. I respectfully will say, however, that if that has been locked as a fire pit, that has not been done because I've responded to that place as a fireman, and I've only been a fireman for less than 4 years.
yeah,
So we could do, and I'm not disagreeing with you in principle. If it's acceptable to everybody, let's have the scouts camp there with a fire. As long as that's good with everybody, and I could tell you it's not good with adjacent landowners. So even if we let them know that, I don't know that it's going to be okay. And I'm all about scouts sitting by the fire and toasting, marshmallows and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I just don't want to create more problems for us in the long run.
Right.
However, I am willing to go along with what everybody wants to go along with. I'm not against having the scouts there and having a fire. I just
Right.
don't want to create problems in the long run.
yeah. Ed,
I think Steve said at the beginning of the meeting that the fire pit is secured.
that's what I thought he said.
I thought he said that the lock they fabricated, I'm gonna guess it was about 2 years ago, they fabricated that lock, was effective. Again, I haven't been out there, so I can't speak,
Right.
you know, to the current situation and if something's rusted or been pulled apart by somebody or otherwise jerry-rigged, but
Yeah, I believe he said that, and I think it probably goes back, Carl, to the fire department getting called those couple of times and, what you brought up about that. All the did they call early or later also? I don't know if people were having fires later. If they do have-
We had, I believe we've had 3 or 4 calls, and most of them were during the daylight, but I believe we were out there one time at night. Obviously, it's easier to see a fire at night.
Right,
And I believe the calls were the complainant was one landowner.
right. That's what I remember also. There is a time on the sheet for, fires must all be out by 10.
Right. And by the way, let me just say this, that Boy Scouts were not the source of any of these complaints.
It is, here's a
Yes,
picture of it if you want to see it.
oh, thank you.
There's a-
Yeah, so, Carl, he just showed us a picture of the metal top on the fire pit and a chain and lock.
See that, but
Can you see it?
big metal.
I'll stipulate that that's the case. You don't have to show me. I'm not trying to be,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do is, suggest that we mitigate problems in the short run so that
Right.
we don't have problems with that parcel in the long run. I'm all about people camping there, or
Right.
I'm all about scouts camping there,
yeah, right.
or me, but mostly
Yeah.
scouts.
I'm also a little concerned about having a nearby homeowner deciding what the policy should be on our town open space parcel, so.
You have one thing, if I may, Jonathan, again, we have some new stoves that we just donated. They come in a bag, called volcano stoves, and they take wood, charcoal. and propane. So we were concerned about wood embers in the air. It's plausible that we could, in fact, bring a propane tank and hook this thing up and use that in the fire pit. So that is possibly an option. I just want to put that out there in case the wood was the biggest concern. That's all.
Okay.
I think if somebody, my personal opinion, if someone from a distance is reporting, they see a fire, they won't know what the source of the fire is. They won't be able to tell if it's from propane or wood, and if they're inclined to call the fire department, they'll call the fire department regardless, because it's the flame that they see, not the containment or control of the fire.
And in my opinion, there are people who are upset that folks are using open space that's contiguous to their property. So you're never going to stop that. As long as we can, as long as there's a situation where the scouts are using it, it's the scouts and they're using it responsibly. I mean, that's why we originally, you know,
Yeah.
we saw that as a use for this parcel, and that's why this commission um approved two, or at least two, projects for Eagle Scouts to make that property usable for scouts. I just want to be very sensitive to the landowner's concern, and point out that none of these rules that I'm seeing up on Maureen's shared screen were generated by us.
Right, right. Now, um. Have you talked at all to Parks and Rec? Or? About the camping or
So
the
the,
first stop,
the request came through Park and Rec,
okay,
came to me. I thought they were the ones that administered the
Yeah.
paperwork for it.
right,
Then I left on vacation, and then there was some conversation about the vehicles in the
yeah, okay,
Port of Play, and then it just kind of grew into, well, are there rules and who does this? And Jen being a newer director based on this document, which someone who's administrating in her department unearthed, and I unearthed it. I think I also found it in the Conservation Commission files here. So I thought, okay, maybe it was a collaborative effort, and just kind of running with, okay, let's figure this out so that we can move forward from here on in, as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel every time we get the inquiry.
mhm,
So the main direction, and I think Carl summarized it, was whether or not the commission is comfortable with an administrative and staffing review of the request for camping at the campgrounds. So that would be in the short term, if in 2 weeks they want to camp, or do they have to wait to get onto a commission agenda in order, Conservation Commission agenda, does Conservation Commission need to see it? Or, I think Park and Rec then will decide whether Parks and Rec Commission needs to see something before authorizing use of the facilities in their forms, but we're just trying to coordinate it, so we have a plan set out for people.
Steve Wood did mention that I would have to ask the community garden. Portal. That's my understanding, in the portal at town. Put there by the town, so yeah, maybe you could get some clarification on that when you go back and talk to him about. Like that. It's a little.
My opinion was, again, coming in after
Yeah.
the Port LA was certainly, been used there for years, is that it's at Hatchery Brooks parking area. So if someone was hiking, they would be able to use it.
that also, so.
Someone using
Yeah.
otherwise using Hatchery Brook would be able to use it. But it may be a matter of who pays to have it, but I'm thinking if you have one, say, at Sage Park, if you have one at Sage Park and
Yeah.
the soccer club, I'm guessing who has clubs, pays for it, does that mean somebody that's playing kickball can't use it?
I'm almost
That's
positive.
not making sense to me, but
Right.
I'm also not the person administering it, and it may make sense if there was an issue at some point.
And I never remember in my decade plus on board of the soccer league that we ever had an item in there that, oh yeah, we have to, pay the town back for porta potties. And I believe that we did pay for porta potty for a number of years, but I
Number
think
of
we
years.
are now just, it's one of
The town
Yeah.
facilities that
Yeah.
has them, I believe. I think it was pooled. It
That's-
may come out of you know, they may have taken some from each budget and to pay for it, but
We just wanna follow. the rules.
Right, right. And I don't know, I'm thinking that, you know, that there's a motion here as far as you know, with us, supporting the scouts using the parcel responsibly and I don't know, you know, following whatever restrictions Parks and Rec, you know, for administering or administering the use of the location. And then I'll have a separate one after that about, I think that the two of us need to, two commissions need to talk about what something like this should actually look like and get approved. And to take care of some of the little loose ends in here, including, you know, like the recognizing that there is a fire pit that must be, you know, that has been built to be used, and that should be mentioned in here. Maybe a couple other minor things, once we look at this in more detail.
I would,
Yeah, I mean, just to offer, do some sidebar comments regarding
Right.
the fire pit. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot with the use of the building.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's Jonathan was pointing out,
Yeah.
it's not to secure the building outdoor.
So there needs to, there are some things in here that need to be updated or modified. So
I just wanted to point out that one of the things on this list is that the use of the fire pit would require a permit from the fire marshal, so, I would suggest to anyone using the property confirm that that is still applicable both through Park and Rec and through the fire marshal's office, which is in this department, so.
Pretty standard practice. We notify the police department when ask for permission from the fire marshal, say they have a fire. So forth. I think it's all in the Parks and Rec registration for land use.
So is there a consensus? Is that what we want to do?
Yeah.
Tom, yeah, Mary Catherine and.
So Mary Catherine has added a couple more notes here. One, she agreed with what Carl said earlier, then I agree with Gry that we must balance the concerns of nearby homeowners with the right of the town. With the right the town has to allow responsible use of open space, and she thinks the two commissions need to agree on regulations first, then civic groups can apply to use the approved areas.
I think, I mean, is there a time frame that you're looking at for camping? I mean, is there anything in the near future, like a date circle in May or, you know, June, something?
Just as soon as possible.
Okay.
Put in a-
Okay.
Yeah, I would hate for us to have to like go
Yeah,
through some sort of like formal process.
Right.
Because we haven't since 2015, obviously.
Right,
So I'm all for the scouts using this property as long as they do it responsibly. We understand we're not going to have any vehicular traffic. We're not going to haul a porta potty out there, and we have to be conscious of the fire issue. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I don't want to say we're going to have like some sort of we're going to have a Park and Rec Conservation Commission town council blessing on a camping trip that needs to happen before these
Yeah.
kids turn 18.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it'll never happen.
and that's why I think that, you know, this draft thing is something we take care of down the line. I don't think we need to say that needs to be done before this, you know, gets our blessing. But I think it would help for other requests in the future. And then it would be a 10-minute thing instead of what we've had tonight, so, you know.
I don't know if Vincent had anything.
Yeah,
to
any-
close. Vincent, do you have anything?
I think again, just to reiterate, we appreciate very much the committee's time and attention to the matter. Thank you again for the chance to present to you. You made very good points, and I appreciate it's difficult being on the commission. You have to weigh all the competing concerns. But what I'm hearing is you're being very reasonable and very fair, and we appreciate that very much. And we, of course, understand if we're allowed to use the land, we have to use it responsibly. That's what we teach the scouts, and we understand that's very clear. So thank you again for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Maureen, you should probably have a motion for this, right?
I think so.
Is there someone that would like to make this official here?
All right, so I'd like to move that, well, I think there's a couple of motions out there, but I'm gonna make this one, right? So
Yep.
I move that, congregate groups from, Berlin Scouts be allowed to access and camp at the Hatchery Brook Conservation Area. With the knowledge that there's not going to be let's just say this, that they need to use leave no trace principles, and that they be allowed to do that with the permission. No, let's just that they be allowed to do that for the next 3 months while we work out our stuff. That probably didn't get it, did it, Guy?
Yeah, it could be. We could put the
I think the leave no trace
Timeframe.
principles is important to do because
Yeah.
everybody, if you're not if you're a scout and you don't know what leave no trace principles mean, so I'm gonna say that, and like I'd be willing to say that we got to be careful because I've been backpacking a lot in the last 10 years and I've only used fires. You're not allowed to use fires anywhere on a blue trail in Connecticut and even on the Appalachian Trail in Connecticut. I believe fires are prohibited. So I'm not suggesting that we allow fires there, but that's the crux of the issue here. So maybe, I'm not trying to gum up this motion, but let's just say leave no trace principles. And let's try to be cognizant of the fact that we've got a landowner that calls the cops and the fire department every single time.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not a very good motion.
Can I add something to that they have to do the paperwork through the Parks and Rec Department?
Yeah.
That has the liabilities and all those
Okay.
things with
Now
that.
is it, but my problem with that would be that is Park and Rec gonna say we gotta refer it back to somebody or we've got to give it to the town attorney, because then these kids are gonna turn 18 and they're never gonna be able to go camping in town.
No, I believe that's how the use of any of the facilities has been is overseen. Is we need someone making sure that the liabilities are there.
Oh, I
and
guess you're right.
those
Yes, okay.
Those administrative items, and I guess I would add to it then, subject to Park and Rec being okay with that. If they're not okay with it over the next 3 months, then, for your motion, then we'll have to make sure to have the Conservation Commission and Park and Rec Department and or commission come to an agreement ASA as quickly as possible within that time frame.
I also think within that, I guess it depends on how you want to read the leave no trace, but I mean, the fact that you've got a fire pit there, that it has been secured by the town. It would seem to me that it's, if you wanted to use the fire pit, then follow it here to get the permit from the fire marshal, which will probably help. Something to do with what the fire danger is on that particular day. If they prevent it, then bring your wood. Yeah.
Tom, that's a really good point. Once there's a fire pit, you're not gonna, like undo that fire pit. It's a permanent feature or a semi-permanent feature, but yeah, you have to be careful of the fire danger too.
Right. could we add then to your motion, something like, that with the leave no trace principles in camping, like you said, and then, with, Parks and Rec approval in any town, and following any, town restrictions or requirements.
Yeah, I'd say subject to fire marshal
Okay, so-
approval, because,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm
Well, I
okay
figured
with the
that
Parks
that
and
gets
Rec thing,
into
as long
their-
as it doesn't get too bureaucratic, you know?
Right.
But yeah, we have to be subject to the, you're right, and Tom is right, you and Tom are right, we have to be careful of the fire marshal approval.
Mhm.
But you know, like so this to Maureen, we're not subjecting this to a full review by Parks and Rec if I say, you know, subject to Parks and Rec approval, am I?
No, I think it's their form. That's
Right.
the way I understood it from the emails back and forth. They
Okay,
reached out to me asking if they were good to let him just use the form and proceed with the
okay, cool, yeah,
the
I'm good then, I'm
proposed
good.
camping trip. Of
Yeah.
course, you know what, we don't have that director here with us today. I believe she's been out of the office, so, you know, I would like to, you know, have that conversation with her and Steve again, and, you know, just kind of as a department come together to make sure we're all on the same page. And that we're following all the rules that we know exist. You know, we looked at the charter, we looked at the code book, we looked to the Park and Rec policies as well as the Conservation Commission, so.
Then I'm good, guy.
All right. All right,
Second,
I was gonna say, second, any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Mary Catherine
yes.
replied yes.
Yep.
And Carl?
Charles, yes.
Very good, and hopefully that's. Get you.
Thank
On
you.
the road.
We should just have that discussion with Steve about the use of the Girl Scout camp while you're on that topic. I know you
Yeah.
probably write some things, maybe
Yeah.
we could draft something for that, so we have, so we present in the fall, so he has something to run off of. And we have some rules to follow, because right now it's not really clear picture. here.
And something else?
As-
No, and then just, you've mentioned about other projects and stuff, and, one thing that I think that we would, look at favorably would be, like you mentioned about the birdhouse. We had somebody in a number of years ago that set up a whole bunch of bluebird houses, and we have not seen or heard from him in a number of years. And I don't think, you know, for a while there, we had, I think, actually two different people that, you know, and some groups doing that. And we had a lot of them set up. There's still a number of them at the golf course and, you know, out at Timberland, and, you know, that things like that we typically have looked favorable about, and Hatchery Brook has always had some for a good length of time. And there hasn't been anybody really doing any upkeep on those or monitoring those.
Could I just ask one additional clarifying question? I apologize. I just want to make sure that we follow the precise direction you've given us, because you've been very gracious to give us this opportunity. We want to make sure we follow the rules. On the issue of whether fires are permitted or not permitted during the 3-month probationary period, I just wanted to confirm, is it your conclusion based on the motion that was submitted that they would be permitted during that 3-month period only if the fire marshal consents and only if we use the fire pit in an approved manner? Or is the issue would be no for the 3-month probationary period? I just want to make sure we follow exactly what your decision is.
I think the decision is you can use the fire pit as long as you have a permit from the fire marshal.
That was my understanding of that too. That's what,
That's my understanding as well.
yeah, that's what we met on that, yes.
Thank you very much for the clarification. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for being so precise. We appreciate that, because that's gonna allow, you know, that sort of precision is gonna allow us move forward, I believe, you know, because like I said, there's a guy who calls the fire department every single time that somebody uses that fire pit. So we need to be very, very careful and be sensitive to the landowners as well.
All right.
As far as other facilities, one of the things that we also have to check before expanding where camping or anything else is allowed is the provisions under which the property was acquired. So sometimes there may be something in how it was acquired that says how it can be used.
Yeah.
So
And
that's just,
a number
you
of
know, there may
different-
be lots of properties that
Yeah.
seem to fit
Yeah.
a certain use, and then for one reason or another, it can't. Sometimes it's the landowner that
Yeah.
dedicated it, and sometimes it's a grant that was used to acquire it. There's lots of
Yeah.
oddities.
Thank you.
And the different properties have all been acquired by slightly different means and stuff, so.
And then sometimes compiled.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have Bicentennial and Hatchery and Shear and is it Chitosky? That's all
And, yeah,
comes in together, but they were acquired in three different manners. So there's actually delineations in the use areas.
There might be some contamination.
Keeps me in business.
Yeah, somebody.
yeah, there's, yeah, Chakowski's.
We sound like horrible bureaucrats. I know we do, but we're actually the best of all of them. And I will point out to you, Vincent, and our other guest who, I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name. There is a primitive campground on Lamentation Mountain. I don't know how big your troops are, but if you had a few guys who needed a few hiking miles for their merit badge or their camping badge, you don't need to ask our permission. You can't have a fire there, but there's if you look for it, there's a primitive campground on the side of Lamentation Mountain looking west on the Mattabassa Trail. Yeah, don't have a fire there or people will come out, but it's a good place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your time,
Oh,
appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks very much. Have a great night. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Thanks.
Thanks again for your time, appreciate
Yeah.
it. Have a good evening.
Yep.
You too.
Thank you. Thanks, Maureen.
No problem.
All right. And, um, there was it's not on here but it's still under that. There was something that, one of the emails, Maureen, about state selling a piece of land near
Oh.
Lamentation.
Yeah, so, I don't know how familiar you guys all are with, as you go down the Berlin Turnpike, just as you're entering Meriden, on the east side of the highway, up the hill, there's, property, it's owned by, I think that's called Meriden Heritage 2 or LLC, something like that, which is a Carabetta entity. There's a house up there. There's a bill to sell, I don't remember the acreage. I think it's something like 47 acres, of 47 or so acres. That is that parcel that's in Berlin. That's owned by the state, to that Carabetta entity. And so it was brought to our attention by a legislator. We were kind of looking to see what it was all about, and really the town has no purview over it and as to its sale or not from the state, but we were alerted to it, and it is part of Lamentation Mountain, so you know whether or not there's ever any potential, given the topography and other such issues through that area of whether a trail could happen there or not, but at the same time, it was clarifying to find out it was 2.5 of those acres, not the entire parcel.
Yeah.
You know where those 2.5 acres are?
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up. Hold on one second. Give me a minute to get to the GIS.
Cause I know that I'm looking at the parcel right now on Berlin GIS.
Yep.
And I do not believe that I'm saying this to everybody, but to Tom, you know how the CFPA is looking long-term to take the net off of Spruce Brook and Orchard, but I don't think that this
Right? Yeah.
portion would be relevant to that. So that would be my only concern, right? I see the 47 acres. It's
So there it
it's
is,
across from like Canoe Birch Court.
right? That's Canoe Birch. Here's where you go down Colony Road. Right at the traffic light. This is the house that's up. What I'm thinking, not knowing the issues, but what I'm thinking is that perhaps their use and improvements associated with the house. Again, the GIS is not terribly accurate for its property lines, but it certainly appears as though they might encroach on it, and
yeah.
maybe this seeks to rectify that, because this is the property.
Yeah.
And you
that's
can
what I would
see a
think.
driveway, again, these lines are not accurate,
Not that far
but
off.
that would be pretty far off. So I'm thinking it's a chunk in order to
Yeah.
to create their compliance for their property. Again, we don't have, I'm sorry for the zooming in and out and probably giving you guys online a headache. But we weren't provided a map or anything of the area. We just know it was 2.5 acres of that property.
Okay. That's got it.
Oh, comment.
All right. We have no,
And so we have no pending applications before the P and Z that seem um to be of Conservation Commission concern. I believe I brought 855 Berlin Turnpike up previously. It's on the Berlin Turnpike for an accessory building on a lot just north of the Route 9 entrance, or the Mill Street entering. Let's see, a 2-lot subdivision on Randeckers and Club Drive. I think that I also brought last month. 1241 Farmington Avenue, which is the old Arby's. We have a new restaurant use coming in there, Farmers Cafe. 830 Berlin Turnpike, another north of the Acura dealership. That is an addition on that property. Oh, is that where that is? No, that's actually that's not where that is. That's just north of Mickey Finn's. An addition on the front of a property there. 232 Mill Street, Rebel Dog Coffee Shop is proposing to move in where the vacuum cleaner shop used to be, almost to
okay.
Worthington Ridge. 66 Furler Way, which is an industrial zone, they're looking to expand their parking area. And 2590 Berlin Turnpike is a use change, and I'm sorry, I don't know what that one is, but again, it's an improved.
I think we looked at that
I
one,
think you did look at that one actually too. And
that's over by Meriden Road, I think, with the.
let me just. Yeah. Oh, no, actually, it's a plaza.
Oh, okay,
It's a use inside one of the plazas.
okay.
That's down on the west side of the Berlin Turnpike. This here, you have the cars just north of it. It's almost
yeah.
to Silver Lake. Almost to Worthington Point Road, I should say. So it's one of the
Oh, it's over
uses
there.
inside
Okay.
that plaza.
Okay,
Right before Worthington Point Road. So again, none of them, no subdivisions, no new construction on lands that are not already improved. So
Right.
lots of pending P and Z applications, but none that I believe need comment from the planning and zoning, from the conservation commission, so they weren't routed to you.
Alright. Well, I'm gonna try to have some things with the P O C D. Discussions. We have a meeting at the end of the month. That are gonna talk about transportation and environmental resources components of the goals and,
Can
I
I
know-
just?
I know that we've had been here a long time with the first discussion, so.
I
Yes.
just have, because you mentioned where I had the pending bill, for the sale of that, property on my notes, thinking I was gonna bring it up in communication. Because I think that may be more, involved with the P O C D. I just wanted to, note another communication that came in with
Oh.
regard to, from Heidi Brierly. Trail cleanup of fallen trees and removal of a structure that, she brought to our attention and that has been worked on.
Okay,
It was
and that
back
was-
in March.
And that was over like Chakowski.
I believe so. I
We don't know what structure that is, though.
no, but it might be in the email if I can pull that up, if you give me a half a second. Uh, Oh, my screen froze. Hold on. Doesn't like her. Doesn't like her name. Sure, I thought this was gonna take 1 second and instead it doesn't. Push them. See if I printed it. I usually try to. Nope. Bog Bridge Eagle project, but we don't have any information on that yet. Mm. One more second. I have the date of the email. I just now have to unfortunately search it by date.
Gosh, okay, looks like.
You know, it's how you save them too, which is just unfortunate that there's not really a great maintenance system for emails. It was popular on the 19th, clearly.
Okay, so Heidi's name.
Might be this one. So from Steve. We had two guys clearing out, cutting, and removing trees that fallen on the trails throughout the winter today. Structure on pictures 6 and 7, so. Share this. Seven. Let's try picture 7. Oh, yes, that was the structure. So. There's the structure. Can you see that?
Yes. They removed that?
I believe they had to take it down.
Oh,
Trail cleanup, fallen trees, and removal of structure. I'm gonna go back to my emails and see.
really?
That, I actually brought this to the commission, I think another day. Go back to my list.
Hmm.
Email Steve.
Who, I'm sorry, Maureen, I'm not trying to make this, any longer than it's supposed to be, but who took that down?
That
The
was from
town?
Steve, yeah.
Oh,
It
okay, okay,
it
all
got
right, all right.
damaged. It got
Okay.
damaged and was unsafe.
Yep, yep, no, no, okay, I'm gonna withdraw any comments. You don't have to show me any more pictures. I get it. Yeah, I'm surprised those things have, stood for as long as they have. I withdraw and, let's move on.
right.
Sorry, I thought I had another
No,
email.
I'm sorry. I
Heidi
didn't, I guess I
directly.
didn't understand.
I thought I had something from Heidi directly, but I'm not finding it, and I thought I had printed it, and I apologize for that. So,
All right, I don't know, hopefully people have had a chance to at least take a quick look. Good, so, at what, Maureen had sent out and what I had highlighted, from the implementation of the, plan of conservation and development, the highlighted ones, and the ones that I'd like to focus on tonight, I'm gonna try to keep this as quick as possible. And there are two, I guess, two things that I'm looking at, is that, and I'll start with the environmental resource goals. But, if there's anything that, stuck out for you as far as, yes, this is what we should be doing, this is, or that the priority was way off or something like that, but there are only gonna be, to me anyway, a handful of things that we're gonna be able to try to take on. And what I'd like to do is try to identify some of the things that that are either the are examples of the core responsibilities of the commission. Or the second one is some things that we'd like to potentially spread out and do, or things that we haven't been able to do up till now. And if we have town staff support or for doing them and trying to get it done during this next, year or two with the implementation. Just to identify those and to ultimately end up with a handful of items that I can say the commission would like, that we totally agree with, or things that we'd like to take on or think that we can make progress on. And the other ones will be there and maybe we'll get to them, and some things we might just get to anyway, but they're not necessarily our highest priority. But I think that that's all I'm looking for tonight. I have some ideas about ones that I would like to promote as being things that we might like to try to take on, or things that I think definitely identify with what the commission could be doing. And I'm gonna just go through the strategy one at a time and just let me know what you have. I'm gonna give you a couple of things. On the first page, the 118 environmental resource goals starts with strategy 1, and then the highlighted is strategy 2.
can I just?
Yep.
Do you guys need me to bring those up on the screen, or do you have them on your own screens, or? That's to Carl and Mary, Catherine.
I have them on my screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, I'll try to share it, Mary Catherine. We printed them out for those in attendance, so, and with the highlights, but I'm gonna take what I emailed today and I'll share as Guy is talking.
And just to clarify, we're talking about the environmental resource
Yes.
goals specifically this evening. We're not going to go through all of the other
We're
stuff.
not gonna go through everything, no.
Okay. Yes, I have that.
This is a sizable one though, but I'm not gonna go line by line. In looking at that strategy, just as a summary, they're all high priorities. Most of them have us as the partner rather than the lead. And I almost kind of think that the other ones could just as easily be us, you know, in the partner rather than the lead or a co-lead. But I think out of that group, I thought that number 3, number 6, and number 7 were ones that were really within our scope and fit the commission. The updated the inventory of potential open space linkages that could be provided through the acquisition of land and development greenways. And then prioritizing linkage of existing protected open space and fostering interconnections with the surrounding town open spaces. And then review open space areas that do not have conservation easements and recommend additional protections for the properties. All of those, you know, those inventories we need to be able to get from the town staff. They're not something that we're gonna be able to do on our own. So I think that if we can get those types of information, sets of data from town staff, I think it'd be, you know, it's something that we could spend some time and look at and really try to look at our open spaces and are there ways to try to connect them and especially, you know, to other types of open spaces.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with everything you just said. And I think that's consistent with the work that we've done here in the last, you know, 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's also consistent with the prior plan of conservation and development, which I sort of used as a guide. So I'd like to agree with what you said.
Okay, and I'm not,
So,
we're not gonna be able to take on everything. And, you know, I mean, if things come up like number 8, it says pursue state grants for the acquisition, you know what? If a grant comes up and they need us to do something with it, that would be fit within what we do. It's just that, you know, we can't pursue the grants ourselves.
right, so, I just wanna touch because I was pulling those up on the
Yeah.
screen and trying to get those opened, I wasn't focused completely, but, yeah, staff with our, partners of the New England Geo and consultants have been working on the open space inventory and mapping, and so that
Yeah.
is there are things that staff is doing in the background
Yeah.
that the Conservation Commission, it's, kind of under our hats as, with working with the Conservation Commission, that staff is getting some of these, things muddling through.
Yeah.
And that certainly, translate also to state grants. Think
Yeah.
you're all aware that, you know, Jim Mahoney is our grant guru. And we rely on him heavily to know when there's a grant available for something. But the, you know, usually, often in a grant, we need to identify the, commission that's endorsing it, that's giving it its backbone and it's, and sending it forward. So, that's where that comes from as
Right.
well. So
So
I don't think, the intent while the intent isn't to discourage commission members who have the time, ability and wherewithal to work with staff to facilitate a grant and grant writing and everything else. I wouldn't ever want to discourage a community member from volunteering their time and helping us out as best they can. But I think it is, something that staffing usually handles, and
Right.
it's not expected that the commission itself would be doing that heavy lifting portion.
Right, and that's what I figure. And so, to me, if we're gonna focus in on some things, it's things that we can have a little bit more control
Mhm.
over and stuff, so that's what I had for those, the 3, 6, and 7. I don't know if anybody else thought anything else popped out from that group or not, but, those were the 3 that I'll put on a shorter list. The next one that's highlighted is strategy 4, and we're a partner and then a lead.
What page are you on?
And that's the next
118?
119 now.
Okay, it's gonna take me a
Yep.
minute to share the right page,
Yep.
but I've gotta find the right PDF.
Both, the strategy, says continue the oversight and protection of environmentally sensitive areas.
Yeah, Carl, could you just confirm that you're seeing page 119 now, or you may
Yes,
not?
I also have it. I am seeing it
Okay.
and I also have it
Yep.
independently, yes.
All right, just
Um,
wanted to make sure I didn't have to change my,
No, you're good. It
Yeah.
looks good.
good. Okay, sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, that's fine. And, the first one, the managing invasive species, I had made a comment last time, that, there's one going on now and we weren't notified for part of the planning with it anyway. That's a medium. I don't see that's something for us to really, for town-owned water bodies. I think it's something that, we may be able to put an opinion on here or there, but not something for us to really grab a hold of. And then working with property owners to encourage permanent protection of sensitive portions of their property. Riparian zone. That's something I think that, and actually the next one with, protecting water quality on the Mattabasset, conducting, it's not highlighted, but number 1 includes us. Conduct public campaign to reduce litter and pollution in the brook. I think that both those would fall under some kind of either something online maybe, or, if this were 10 or 15 years ago, it might turn into a mailing to people, but we don't really do that kind of stuff anymore. We get better ways to get it out to people, but, I don't, consider the use of tax incentives, which we don't really have any kind of control over. I didn't think that any of those really popped as the top kind of priorities for us, either in strategy 4 or 5.
No, we haven't had a whole lot of success with that sort of public outreach, right?
Right.
And in terms of the tax incentives, I don't know how we could be unless we get a capacity we don't have right now, any lead on that.
Right. So I think, if there's something that's happening through the town and want some assistance with, or some ideas or reviews of something, I think that's one thing, but I don't see that as being a project that we can, in a sense, take on and make progress on as a commission by ourselves. So that would bring us to the next page. 120. And strategy number 6. And it's just, improve stewardship of forest and tree canopy on town-owned open space and right-of-ways. seek assistance from the university forestry program and develop a forest management invasive species control plan for the town-owned spaces. I think that that's something that, is a good idea. I'm not sure we're the ones that can spearhead that, but, we've talked about it in the past. Michael left some notes for me and that's what he mentioned too was, that it's something that's come up from time to time in the past and we really haven't been able to do much with that. But I think it's a component of trying to oversee and manage the open space properties. So I don't know what you think about that. I was on the edge on whether that's something that we want to really tackle or can tackle.
Well, I would ask, it's easy to seek assistance. I mean, we can email, the
Yeah,
chairman of forestry programs. I'm not sure, we don't have the capacity to, I would love to say we have the capacity to like have that liaison with a university forestry program to talk about forest management and invasive species control. But I think we can reach out, but I'm not sure exactly
Yeah,
what we can
okay.
do other than that, and I'm not, I know doesn't Tom may know this better than I do. Yale, right? And probably UConn have forestry programs. I don't know who
Well,
else.
yeah, Yale does, but I guess the other thing that I would say though is, DEP has their service foresters. I think there's three in the state.
Yeah,
So you might want to start with that.
yeah, and we could reach out. I was very good friends with one of the ones, and he's been retired for a number of years now and is out of state, so. Cause I would, if he was still around, I might have been able to talk him into, doing some site visits and give us some information just on, But I don't know any of the other
Yeah, no, I think it
foresters.
would be important. I mean, if nothing else, just for us to identify what town properties have a substantial enough forest canopy, it's just what looks like.
Right,
And then from
Okay.
that, I mean, to find out, how much assistance, technical assistance we could get from service foresters.
okay,
And then if we wanted to go a little further, I mean, there's a whole list of private service foresters.
right, but I think
that you could employ.
but I think you're right, that we gotta start with something along those lines. All right, I'll put that in and, that it's kind of a reach out to them and see what kind of information we can get and any kind of, if there's a site visit or if there's just, they do a lot of it by aerial, now, I don't know. But they,
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I don't know how they.
And might CFPA be a resource?
I don't know.
Not for I mean, they're a great lobbying group, but they don't really have their own foresters. So I would think the thing to do, Carl, would be is to go to the service foresters, covering central Connecticut.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Find out.
Yeah, I understand.
And find out just how much service and the number of days that they can provide to us, and then also find out from them what other resources there are.
I
Okay.
think we may find that some of the universities do have some,
Yeah.
capability for programs that
Right.
they've been working on too.
Right,
I
and
think I recall hearing that at one of the planning things I've gone to.
and we may find out, I think the DEP is a good place to start.
Yeah.
And then they may tell us that, like, if you need anything, else, here's another resource that you could, they should know those kind of things too. All right, that sounds good. I think the next one, which is on page 121, strategy 8. And it's about expand and improve the town's trail system to better connect open space properties and connect Berlin to trail networks in surrounding towns. Improve access and promotion of trail system. Once again, most of these, we're the lead all the way through, and there's like 10 items in this one strategy. The actions really require town staff to help with us on this. But this seems to be, to me anyway, almost what at the core of a lot of the things that we've traditionally done and kind of look at doing, except that it expands it out into things that we don't always have the ability to do, because
So may I say this? May I say this, Guy? Not
yes,
to
absolutely.
but a lot of what is on this, for example, number 2
Yep.
and number 6, number 7 are things that we've been working on.
Mhm.
Mr. Mahoney and I
Yep.
and some other folks have been working on. So I think some of this is being done already, and it sounds like I don't want to say a wish list that we've already been working on, but I'm not going to get too excited about how much responsibility we have to have with it, because it's much of it is already being done.
Yes.
So
I
for
think
example,
that
number four, work with CFPA to reduce the distance of road walks. Spruce Brook, Orchard, Edgewood, that stuff is that, that's not going to be us. That's going to be town staff working with CFPA and private landowners. And maybe we're going to be supportive of that stuff.
Right.
The number 2, and as I said, number 7, number 6, all that stuff is being done or already done.
Number 3,
Yeah,
we're working
you're
on
right.
that.
Oh yeah, number 3, beautiful.
Yeah. So I think that
8 is partially done. It didn't come to fruition, but some of the trails have been,
okay, that was
Shown.
one I was going to ask about, because I wasn't sure about that.
that I believe we had a grant or something last year where we had the mapping done, or at least partially done on that.
So,
I don't know about number 10 though. Geez.
yeah, that was, Michael had a comment on that too, and it's a medium instead of a high, and yeah, we've never had any kind of been approached at all about that being any kind of priority.
Some of those trails on the east side of Bicentennial used to get some horse traffic back in the 70s, maybe the 80s. They had horses out there. I do remember, but I don't know why that's there right now. Other than we should be looking for, cool uses of these properties so people can use them. I don't know where that came.
Yep. And I
I
mean,
think it did come from uses that have been, people have asked throughout the town. I think that's where that came from.
Yep.
There are entities that call up town hall and ask
Yep.
or discussions at other meetings.
and I think number 9 is, something that's been done. I just think maybe it's the keep the trail information up to date on the town website. And maybe that's just something that, is something we think about every once in a while, That's all. I mean, we've got a lot of things up there now, but maybe we just think think about maybe quarterly or something, what, is there anything new? Is there something else that got brought to the town's attention or, you know, needs to go out as an edit or interesting information, new information to share and make sure that it gets on the town website.
Yeah, you're right, like reroutes of trails
Right,
on
right.
Ragged, for example, that
So-
happens.
So just to maybe be a little bit more
Proactive.
proactive with that and think about that a little bit more often.
I just want to note that Mary Catherine said when there was a horse farm on High Road, people would ride to Bicentennial Park.
Okay. Yeah.
As we know, that horse farm isn't there, but
Right.
there are some properties with horses around town and we just may not know where they're going and what they're using. I've seen horses along Edgewood Road a couple of times when I've been on it, but
Yeah.
you know, where they may go off of Edgewood is, I don't know,
Who knows?
not in the woods.
The next one is strategy 9 on page 122, provide site improvements to open space properties to ensure proper stewardship of those properties and improve access by the public. We're in on five of those. That first one is something that, you know, is on there, I think, only because that was kind of in the works with that one plan. It's a medium right now. I got the feeling like seeing the plan last month that, I'm not so sure that that's even a medium priority for us.
Which one are you on? I'm sorry, what number?
Strategy 9, number 1.
Number 1, okay.
We looked at that. I walked that. It's wet. They're loading
I'm
there.
on the wrong page.
122.
I'm like, that's not what you're saying. That's better.
There you go. And that's the shared property off of Woodlawn with the water department. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. We didn't necessarily see in their plans trails going there, and I don't know if we
So I'll
think
get,
that the property is of the quality, you know, like access wise, I mean, a lot of it's wet and everything to formalize trails on that. When there isn't gonna be any other public, right now, any other public access
so,
other than through the apartment, the new buildings going up.
so last week at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a settlement plan with the owners at 550, 554, so for, housing, it's kind of a modification from their original proposal, settlement of that was denied. But it's not the 9-story affordable housing project that is still pending approval of this through the court. They do have trails on their site that they've developed, and in the stipulated judgment, there is an area shown for dedication of parking to the town for future public access. So that is included in there, with the acknowledgement that that's not something that's, immediate. But if the access isn't, and the parking isn't established at the time of development, it's pretty hard to get later.
Yeah.
After something's settled and built, so you ask for it at the beginning, and again, it goes along with, whether or not, at some point, access into the open space is improved.
All right, so.
We
I
can't
mean,
really find too many, locations where you can get into that, piece of property.
Yeah,
The Sportsman's Pond property is very
yeah,
limited access points, so this
Yep.
was the opportunity to secure an access point.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking to do with their approval.
all right. So, you know, to me, I don't know, you know, I don't think that that's a huge one for us, but it could fall into our lap as far as trail design and stuff, but it's gonna be pretty limited. The next one is kind of happening too, right, with the Pistol Creek properties, connections with Lamentation and the town open space. I don't know,
that-
I mean, that's more the town staff.
Yeah, we said, we
We're
spent a lot
taking
of
it.
time on that. We're waiting to see about that, right?
Yeah,
And
Uh,
that has a lot to do with the grant that's been applied for. with
Right.
Middletown and moving that forward. But again, you know, remember that this, the implementation plan was primarily put together to adopt the plan of conservation and development back, full year ago.
Mhm.
And, like that grant and all the work that's more recently been done has happened in the last several months. So, kind of nice to see that there's a number of items that are well underway.
that are under, right, they're underway.
Well
so,
underway.
Yep.
And I think that's where some of the priority level came through as well. On the list is, our recommendations as staff that's dealing with different items, myself, Jim, our consultant, knowing what's actually in the works in order to put it in a place that it gets finished up because it's close.
mhm. I think number 5 is something that, once again, we've looked at a number of times in the past. And have really come up short with trying to get any kind of, decent access to Webster Park. It's in here as a medium with us as just a partner. I don't know what else we do with that at this point, so. Unless the town can get some kind of approval from the state and level off the hillside there or something like they've done off of 66 in Middlefield there, you know, for their hiking trail and parking lot, but with what we have access to now, we have a small corridor in, which we didn't always have, but that's still been too wet. We had a bridge project there at one point, and all of that, you know, really didn't work out as far as really providing access. I think number 6 kind of hits at the heart of what we do. Or at least trying to make these things happen, so. It's, make town open space lands more accessible to the public, creating new trails, marking existing trails and boundaries, building bridges, boardwalks, signage, improving accessibility and stuff. So I think that's what we've been doing, and I think that that's still there's still a lot to do with that, especially with, you know, there's always stuff with the apps and online stuff, but also I think the big area that we need the town to help us with is creating parking areas for some of these open space parcels and finally getting some kind of decent access or improved access at some of these open space parcels. So I think that's one that we work on now and we will continue to keep as a high priority. And I don't know whether we can do all of this, you know, it's kind of working together for number 7, identify critical improvements and maintenance needs. And I know that that's for the town-owned open space. Summary of properties and produces a summary of lists of needs and stuff. I think that we've talked about the new version of some kind of land care volunteer. We would get a lot of information out of that along those lines, especially for what the parcels need and conditions, you know, maintenance and stuff out of that. So I think that that's an important one for us that um, we could end up providing more input on what the parcels need and for improvements and maintenance. So I had 6 and 7 as being, you know, like big, you know, kind of things for us to tackle, though we're already tackling, you know, many portions of that. Hey, and that takes care of the rec. I think there's only like a handful of these things in transportation. So if I could just go through some of those too. I don't think there's much for us, though we're listed in here. It's on page 130. Strategy 3. Develop a bicycle plan that identifies preferred bicycle routes and corridors that may lead to development of bike lanes and stuff. I don't really, and Michael put a thing in there. He doesn't really think that that falls very well within for our group. I don't know what people think. What do you think?
I completely agree. I don't know how that's a conservation unless it
Yeah.
goes through like I can see that on a paved road, or if we want to have a like some sort of preferred way through a conservation area to link up a bike route,
Right,
but I don't see that as really our within our bailiwick,
yeah.
respectfully.
So I think that, yes, on some kind of limited
I
you
think
know,
that gets
situation.
to the
that-
pathways.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. We are working on some grant, and town planning that has more complete streets with bicycle, capabilities and identifying that. But I think there was also some discussion of, places to have paths and trails for bikes.
Yeah.
Was included in that conversation. I'd have to remind myself of that strategy. I don't remember the details of it that much.
Yeah, and it's not a high priority on the, so,
The medium at this point.
yeah, so I'm not gonna include, you know, like any kind of, you know, like, oh yeah, we're jumping on that one. And then the last one is number 9, which is expand trail and greenway connections across town and identify preferred routes for connecting to nearby regional trails such as the Farmington Canal. But the whole thing is improve bicycle and pedestrian connectivity across town is the strategy. So I think that one's more in our, but for trail and greenway connections, but it still has the bicycle but it does have pedestrian in there too, so. I mean, that almost, without the bicycle component in there, is really similar to one of the other ones in the core group of our responsibilities already as far as, connectivity. Which we already, you know, saw in the previous section, so.
Was also a recognition of
Yeah.
increased use of bicycles.
Right, yep. So not that we're against any of that, I just don't see that as being like something that's gonna take like a lot of our,
Yeah,
you know.
it'd be interesting, like, well, I spent some time at the live, but I mean, you know, sort of citywide. You
Mhm.
seem to make
Oh,
a
yeah.
big thing there. As
Yes.
far as like bicycle access and, you know, it's like.
Yeah.
It does.
Bicycles could be in the road.
Yeah. Yep.
But everybody's taking the lead there, I mean, obviously, Department of Public Works. But
Right.
Parks and Recreation there.
And they're listed there and then we're in
Yeah.
the co, so, you know. so there, I think it's in case there's something that falls within.
I think it depends on where,
Where?
where it's being
Yeah.
improved, where improvements are gonna be happening, or access points, or what have you. And it also, plays into the ability for all to get everywhere. You don't need a car necessarily, but
Right.
maybe you need a bike to get to that trail,
Yeah.
to get, so that you can hike or off-road bike if that's allowed in the area or what have you, but it allows people those connections and the ability possibly to get somewhere in a more efficient manner than traveling the roadway.
Yep.
Um, a
Alright.
job, a school, or whatever. So I think those are all,
Yep, so I think,
connectivity is important.
so I think our involvement would be, you know, after this develops for a ways and depending on the location of a project or something, so. All right, anything that's the end of those two that we'll be discussing at the end of the month, so, anything that we didn't really talk about that we think should be a bigger issue or pretty much kind of what I think,
I guess the only thought that I had, it would be, I guess my mom kept on rolling the last one.
Yep,
too,
yep.
You know, is the idea that, you know, there's a lot of communication between groups.
Yep.
going on now.
Mhm.
And I think if we, with the Conservation Commission, if we wanted to invite ourselves in or invite them in for a forum, maybe even once a
We
year.
could, yeah,
you know,
and we've
just to-
talked, yeah, and I think that's a good idea.
And also to involve, like the Parks and Forest Association
Yeah.
too.
Would that be like a working kind of thing or just a public, to kind of host more of a public awareness kind of?
Public awareness, but maybe put on a specific invitation to those organizations.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. Anything, Carl?
Gus,
Hey, Gus? And Mary Catherine, is she?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, guys.
Yeah.
for the work
Sorry,
you
sorry,
have
guys. Sorry,
done.
I missed my mute button. No, I'm good. I think that was a pretty complete treatment. I think as Maureen said, some of this stuff is already in the hopper, you know, so
Yes, yep.
I'm encouraged by that. And so we'll see how it goes.
All right.
I just want to note that Mary Catherine said, thank you, Guy, for the work you've done in identifying the areas of the P O C D that we should focus our efforts on.
Okay, thank you. All right, any commissioner comments? Besides what we just went through?
The bridge over Hatchery Brook, in Bicentennial Park is going to need some attention, and I'll submit some photographs for the next meeting. It is you will recall that CFPA built it for us during a Trails Day event a long time ago, maybe 10 years, and it's bordering on unsafe right now. So I
I'm sorry,
will,
could you tell me what that is? Tell me where you said again?
oh, I'm sorry, it's the bridge over Hatchery Brook,
Yep,
just to the, let me get this right, just to the east of the Bicentennial. Let me get this right. Let me look at a map. Well, anyway, it's the closest bridge over Bicentennial, I'm sorry, over Hatchery Brook from the entrance at the end of Winesap Road. CFPA did a big event for us. Did not a Trails Day event. It was a work party a number of years ago, and they built a beautiful bridge for us, and it's done a good job. But ever since then, it's seen a lot more water over the bridge. There's a lot of water under the bridge, right? So there's been a lot of water over the bridge, and it's structurally it is getting to the point where it is unstable. I'm not qualified to say whether it is or it isn't, and I certainly don't want to put that on the record, but it's not going to be for long. So
Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah.
Closest
okay,
to
yeah.
yeah,
the
I mean somebody may
Okay.
want to go take a look at that, Maureen, because we could close that trail and not too many people go over there anyway. But it's there's some structural issues with that bridge.
So you said it was the closest to the entrance at the end of what road?
Wine.
Winesap, did I say that? I'm sorry.
you.
I may have said.
Yeah,
I
you did. I just can't write that fast.
Oh no, I might have said bicentennial. I've only been
No, you
living in
said it,
town
yeah.
since 1972. So
Okay,
Good. All right.
I'll try to remember when we get the minutes done to circle back with Woody and others.
yeah, you can always
yeah.
give me a call. You know.
Yeah,
And then unless anybody has anything else, I'll move to adjourn. I don't know.
There a second?
Okay,
All in favor?
I.
Hi.
the time is 8:42.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Goodbye now.
you.
Thank you, Mary, Catherine, and Carl,
So long,
Or AKA Gus.
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 That's my radio name. Goodbye.
All right,
Thanks.
good night.
Oh, so Mary Catherine said she's sorry about her lack of audio. I'm in Vermont and we are having some problems with the crew. But the eclipse was awesome. Oh, I'm sure it was. My husband went up north too.
I thought
And
about
I'm
going.
jealous as could be.
Place that we vacation up there on Champlain is not too far, like Burlington was pretty close to the.
Good night, Mary
Oh, yeah,
Catherine.
you know.
I'm ending the meeting.